hope your week has been fantastic so far. Now, on this show, we've showcased the goodness of the Lord, what He is doing in different people's lives, and it's amazing. He's doing so much. So these are real stories from real people talking about a real God. And on the show today, I have Mufaro. Welcome to the show, Mufaro.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for making the time.
You know, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, what we want to know is, who is Mufaro? Please tell us who you are, your surname, anything that you'd like the audience to know.
All right. Mufaro is, well, first of all, I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a friend. I'm a child of God. And beyond that, I would say I am a creative visionary, a cultural architect, passionate about music, storytelling, media, and I think all forms of creativity to really, leave impact for God's kingdom, and just to really touch and heal lives through content, through art, through different forms of creative culture in that sense. So, that's me.
Wow, there's so much in there, but we can't wait. I think we've got an exciting hour ahead of us.
Yes,
so please take it away and tell us your story.
All right. So I've always, my parents say that when I was in my mother's womb, I had a natural reaction to music.
Really?
I did.
Oh.
And so, like, whenever music played, I would kick in a certain way in my mom's womb and so forth. So from the time I was born, music is kind of what I was always drawn to. So my journey with music started in preschool, actually. So we would do plays at the end of the year, so like recitals, plays, and I had the opportunity to play the drummer boy for one of our Christmas plays. I think for the first time was probably in the late 90s, and so from then my obsession with drumming kind of just kicked in, and I think as the years went on, I began to learn how to play the drums.
Okay.
And
you went for like lessons?
What actually started off was that I would learn from the drummers we had at our old church. So at the time I was attending Faith Ministries Border Community Church. And so the drummers then would then show me a few things after the service. I would pick it up, I'd learn, and I'm like, okay, cool, I can play this. So it was the trend for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I went to the Celebration School of Music. I think when I was grade 6 now, and I learned how to play drums from a guy called Brian Mambo, who I believe is one of the best drummers to have ever graced the planet.
Oh, wow.
And so he played for Celebration Choir, and so he would teach me. I think he taught me for 2 terms.
Is he still there?
He's now in South Africa.
Oh, he's now in South Africa.
Yeah, so my dad got to see him a couple of years, I think a year or 2 back.
Okay.
But he's now based in South Africa, and he's also playing and he's teaching.
Okay.
So so I learned 2 terms. Then he told my parents, no, he's done, he can play. He doesn't need to come back for a 3rd term. So I then began to shadow the different drummers we had at our church at the time, and I then would start playing in youth.
Okay.
I think when I got to high school, I started playing in youth. The few opportunities that I got, and then sometimes I'd play in church.
Nice.
And then there was a period where I didn't play in the church context, but I was also playing in school. I was at Gateway High School for the first 2 years of my high school life. I played in the jazz band.
Oh, there was a jazz band.
There was a jazz band.
Nice,
So they had a senior jazz band and a junior jazz band. By God's grace, I got to play the senior jazz band in Form 1. So which was an interesting journey, getting to learn from different singers, band members, and getting to play at our school concerts as time went on.
So you had a lot of exposure, hey? I can see school, And then church as well.
Yes, and then in church. And then I think eventually got to play for industry. Artists like Pastor G.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
I played for you. There was a conference that happened a few years back at BCC, and we were actually tasked to play for him.
Wow,
and it was one of the most incredible experiences.
Great opportunity.
It was a great opportunity. And then I also play percussion, which is the bongos, your shakers, your tambourines, and
your triangle.
Triangles.
I remember that from school.
And the chimes with the
that's
and so
nice.
forth. And we do a lot of cymbals.
Okay. So you learned to play all those?
Percussion was by accident.
Okay.
Yeah, because I did, when I was sessioning with the junior jazz band, the school music director was like, can you try these, play these? I'm like, okay, cool, let's try it. And I would play, and it gelled for that time, so I would then fill in the gap for the drummers and the bass. And
that was more just from playing by ear, rhythm, or did you have to learn to read music for those? Percussions, just going along.
I'm not the greatest reader when it comes to musical theory. So I played by ear.
That means you're very talented, actually. It does. If you play by ear.
Yeah, so I played by ear for the most part. Okay. I think for the entirety of my musical journey, I've always played with the ear. So so I got to play percussion, and then I didn't play percussion for about 11 years until I moved back to Celebration Church, and they needed someone to play percussion for the evening services.
The evening services, yeah.
So I then started that way, and which kind of opened to different opportunities. I got to play for Travis Green.
What a nice opportunity.
Yeah, when he came and did a Sunday service.
Okay.
At church, we got to play, a few of us with his band, we got to play for him, and for his set in church, and it opened up to a bunch of relationships, with the drummer that he plays with, who has played for people like Elevation Worship.
Oh, wow.
For Joe L. Barnes, and a great host of amazing artists and so forth, and even some of the guys from Forward City Music. So
that's really great.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so God has kind of opened doors
definitely.
to that as well. So that's the drumming and the percussion side. I wrote my first song.
You write as well?
I write songs.
Wow.
I do. It's
nice.
One of my favorite things to do.
Okay.
I feel at home when I'm writing music because it's like this place where I'm with God and I'm communicating, my experience and the journey that I've been, or writing for a season that I'm about to go through.
Okay.
So I wrote my first song at 11.
At 11.
At 11 years old. And I would try to write songs, and then I stopped when I was 13, and I think I did a 5-year gap where I didn't really write much, but I would have times where I'll create melodies in my head.
So you were doing the actual words, and then you also had an idea of how you want the song to go, like a melody in your head.
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
Obviously, sometimes it will change, but I would try to have because I don't play stringed instruments. So it's now translating how you want the song to sound to the person that was helping you arrange it.
Okay.
So I got back into writing when I was 18, and this time I had a call of writing for people or writing for specific projects. So when I got back into it, it was a bit rough on the edges. So fortunately, I had my friend and a longtime collaborator, Jemima Baker, who kind of then coached me through the process of writing a proper song.
Oh, she's trained in music?
She's self-taught for the most part in terms of things like writing, and then she was trained to play the keyboard and the guitar, but she also plays by ear like myself.
Is the late Pastor Baker's daughter?
Yes, that's her. So she was writing a lot of music.
Okay.
By the time I was trying to get back into writing songs, so she had written close to an entire album.
Wow.
That we then helped produce.
So she's now a recording artist, kind of?
She's now a recording artist.
Nice.
So I think by then she was like, no, I'll help you. And so it took a bit of time, and I think it took a lot of exercise and practice and writing every day to kind of get it right.
Okay.
I think the following year, I think I'd gotten the hang of it.
Okay.
And so forth. So I started to write for different demo projects that we did, and then eventually wrote for different projects that we were putting out with our record label. Most recently released a project under our collective, which is known as New Rivers.
New Rivers.
We released a project called Always Joy. And I got to write songs for that particular project as well as producing some of the songs as well.
Okay.
So that's the journey that we've walked. So writing for different artists.
Local artists.
Local, upcoming. So I think one of the artists that I've gotten to work with is Godfrey Kazere, or he's known as Piece Together in the different circles.
Okay, and we had him on the show just the other week.
Yeah. So he's a talented artist. We got to work with two producers, Simba Moyo and Jabulo DUBE,
Simba Moyo, yes.
on some of the projects that he did. So my job was really to assist in production and provide, like guidance where I was needed. And then we kind of got to write a song on his first album together called Mlondi Konela.
Whose album is this?
Godfrey's album.
Oh, Godfrey's, yes.
His first album.
Yeah.
So we got to write a song together for that project. And we've also just written a lot of songs together some that we're yet to actually release as well. So that's the journey that we've walked, songwriting, production. But I think also beyond the music aspect, I've also have a passion for producing podcasts, different forms of content, writing as well. I've written 6 books.
6 books? Wow.
Yeah, 6 books.
We're going to be showing all these things you're talking about, Mufaro, at the end. Yeah.
So 6 books, 4 of them are out. 4 of them were devotional books. So a series of devotional books that I wrote that came out between 2017 and 2021.
So some of it was during COVID, hey?
Some of it was during COVID. So the first 3 were before COVID, and then the final one was written in the middle of the pandemic, kind of as a way to sort of encourage people.
Yes, people needed that, I think.
They did. I believe they did.
And are these available online, or?
Yes, they are. They are. They definitely are. Amazon and smashwords.com for some of the books. And then I got to write Creativity with Purpose, which is an upcoming book.
Creativity with Purpose. That's going to appeal to a lot of creatives.
I hope it does.
And other people as well.
I pray it does.
Oh, wow. So that's in the making?
It's in the making. Well, the book is complete.
Okay.
I think it's just now trying to map out when we publish it. But it was written, it was the journey behind that book was very significant. So God led me to kind of start a blog called Thoughts of a Creative Leader.
Thoughts of a Creative Leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was, I think, in 2020, it was around 2020, during the COVID season. Yeah. So I wanted to add a voice, that drew people to purpose-led creativity. Because we have a lot of art that's coming out and a lot of creativity that's there, and a lot of it is based on trends, on who's viral, on who's number 1 on Billboard, or who's number 1 on iTunes. But are we really creating art or content that speaks to purpose, that speaks to impact, that draws people closer to God in the process, but specifically for us as faith-driven creators?
I like that.
I thought that it would be ideal to create a blog that would speak to creative culture from a faith-based perspective.
Yes.
And remind people that, hey, our art is supposed to make an impact, however you create it, wherever you create it, and know your role in the industry. Your industry shouldn't guide your art. Your industry is a channel to get your art out there. So, I would speak to things like gospel music and and how the structure should be, and things, and just hopefully guiding people into how they can create with purpose, how they can intentionally set aside time to be creative, whatever they've been entrusted by God. Because ultimately, at the end of it all, God is the ultimate creator, because all creativity comes from God. And we are stewards of that creativity, and we have a responsibility to create with purpose. I think one of the things that I believe in this life is that creativity with purpose is always more powerful than creativity just for the sake of it.
Or for popularity.
Yeah. So so I created a lot of content, which then became a podcast of the same name, Thoughts of a Creative Leader. Recently rebranded the podcast to Creative Conversations.
So that obviously doesn't only just speak to music; it speaks to writers, speaks to people doing art, but through the lenses of someone who knows God.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that's lacking, because it's very tempting to just say, okay, what's going to give me the most likes? But no, it's more about what is God's heart, and how is that going to touch people's lives, one life at a time. And I like that. I like that. Yeah.
So I think my belief, I share that same belief as well. I think with any creative that's watching this, we need to realize that, hey, if your song or your art or your podcast or your book touches one person and it impacts them, then you've been successful.
You've been successful.
And we need to kind of like redefine what success looks like in the lens of creativity from a place of purpose and faith.
Yes.
So we developed a lot of content that spoke into that, and that then became the basis of the book. So the book was developed over 4 years.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't realize it was becoming a book.
You're just jotting down your ideas.
Just jotting down ideas, and then having people edit them, and then I would get into topics like marketing, topics like branding, and so forth. Because
you're doing it God's way. Yeah,
doing it from God's way, from place of purpose,
Yeah.
from place that is ethical and that really has an integrity fusion to it. So it became a book that I felt led by God to turn it into a book. And we were able to come up with about, I think, close to 20 chapters.
Oh, wow. On different topics?
On different topics, close to 100 pages.
Wow.
So I had help in bringing it together. I believe in the power of collaboration.
Yes, absolutely.
I think as one person you can go someplace, but together you can go far.
Yes.
And so I had to help my friend Michelle Ramaburana. She's from Joburg, and one of the guys was working with Dino Mastropolo. We joined forces. They did the editing. They sent the ideas. It was a very fun process.
It sounds like it.
It was really fun. Just playing with different ideas, phrasings, wordings, and I think by the beginning of this year we had a complete book.
Okay. So we're looking forward to that.
It's definitely coming before this year ends.
Okay,
before the
great.
year ends.
Wonderful.
So that's what we're working on. And then the next book is it's a book called Reflections in the Middle.
Reflections?
In the Middle.
In the Middle.
Yeah. So I've also been on a personal journey of healing.
Okay.
From past relationships, childhood trauma, and I think also being a pastor's kid.
Yes.
It also has this element of performance attached to it.
People really expect a lot. They expect you to be perfect.
Exactly. And truth is, we're not perfect.
No.
I think we go through our own things just as regular human beings too, as well. So I also faced rejection a lot as a kid. And even into my teenage years, which led to a lot of overcompensation, a lot of overextension, a lot of overfunctioning, and I think
low self-esteem, all those kind of
exactly
things.
Low self-esteem, which showed up even in some of my relationships, even friendships, and so forth. So I went through a very deep, a season of very deep healing, which helped me to write down reflections and thoughts about what I wanted for myself and the person that I was becoming. So it was written from a place of being in between, in the space between who I was and who I was becoming into. So
is it like an autobiography kind of? Or not really, more just your thoughts?
It's a collection of reflections.
Reflections, okay.
So that when I reformatted it to become a book, it was the reflection, as raw as it is.
Okay.
And then there's like a dialogue which I then use to speak to whoever's going to read.
Okay, so they can relate.
They can relate
to
so
what
forth.
you're saying. Yeah.
I do think that part of my purpose in life is also to create a space for healing, for people to shepherd stories that enable people to get to a place of healing, wholeness. I do believe that God wants us to be whole, to be healed from things that we've gone through in life. I think you know, it's I think it's even there in the scripture where, you know, where you know, scripture says that, you know, as your soul prospers, you know, like you must, you know, as your soul prospers, it's very key, for, you know, for our souls to prosper. Now, how do our souls prosper? From a place of wholeness,
Yes.
from a place of, you know, having healed or walking through a journey of healing, and trusting that God is the one that binds up all wounds. You know, He heals the brokenhearted.
Yeah.
You know, Psalm 147 has a beautiful way of capturing it. And he's in Psalm, I think it's in the Psalms as well, where it says the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. So I believe that there's a space that, and I do believe a lot of people do it, where they create space, whether it's through their music, it's through their art, or just through conversation. Where people can just come and they can find a space where they can just heal from things that they've gone through. So.
That's so important. Wow, that's amazing that God is using you in that way as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey, because I didn't think at this point that that was supposed to happen now. But I think, you know, I've also had conversations with my dad where we talked about this, and he would say, "No, you've gone through what you've gone through because you're supposed to help people."
I think that does happen, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'd be the best person. Someone will be able to relate to something, or like you're saying, what happened during when you were younger and so on, rejection. But if you're talking about your own journey, then someone else who faced rejection,
that's true,
I think can say, well, this guy actually knows what it feels like.
True.
So I think there's an element of truth to that, definitely.
Yeah. So it's a journey, because I'm also still becoming.
Yeah.
I think I turned 30 in a few days, and
happy birthday in advance.
Thank you very much.
That's when, let me guess.
July
I think I saw it somewhere, 1 July.
1 July.
That's on Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You're looking forward to that.
I am. It's I do believe it's a new season and a new decade to really now step into a lot of the stuff that God has placed on my heart to do, and that a lot of it some of it came very unexpectedly. And I'm
That's
like,
God for you. His ways are not our ways.
His ways are definitely not our ways. So it's an interesting journey to walk through. It's an interesting phase to kind of just navigate and process and internalize and be able to just and go with it.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a journey in that sense that you know, the first 30 years of my life were a lot of discovery, a lot of, yes, I went through a lot of stuff, and I've also gone through a lot of healing. And I do think that in this next decade will be, I think, one where I guess I would fully step into the purpose and the mandates over my life, and also just to bring people on a journey of healing, bring people on a journey of discovering what it means to create from a place of purpose. You know, to create spaces where new voices can emerge and they tell their story of what God is doing in their lives through whatever art form they've been gifted with. So, yeah, I'm currently walking through a very interesting journey, an interesting transition, which hasn't always been very rosy. It comes with very, you know, difficult moments in line,
and that's what makes it so relatable.
Yeah, I believe that my story hopefully will impact someone or some people, or you know, and so forth. I mean, if one person is blessed or ministered to or touched by the journey that I've had to walk through, then that's enough for me.
Yes.
So that's the journey that I've walked in, and with how like my creativity is tied to God, because honestly, without Him, there is no creativity.
He's the creator.
Exactly. Yeah. With Him, there's no music. There's no book to write. There's no blog to conceptualize, or social media post to write. There is no business to create.
He puts things on your heart.
He does.
Yeah, just uses you as an instrument.
Of
what He wants. What's coming from His throne room. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. So it's really like any blueprint that we get in this life really comes from Him. He places those blueprints in us. I think it's one of the reasons why I believe that, as Christians, as believers, we have been called into the different mountains of influence, whether it's the business or it's health or entertainment. We've been called to that space to show people how it can be done, how to live with integrity, how to infuse prayer into everything that you do, how to treat people nicely, and how to build things that last, build things that speak legacy.
Legacy, that's what I was thinking, legacy.
Yeah. So because we tend to want to be in a space where we think of ourselves and I want to, build this $1 million thing. And really, there's nothing wrong with it. But what would your legacy be after you've passed on or after you've retired? That has to live on. Like,
what you're building, is it going to be passed on to the next generation? Or is it just for now? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when I look at, a lot of people that have built, for example, Pastor Tom, he's built a ministry that's going to outlive him because he's been legacy focused from day one. And, and different business people, from the Strive Masiwas to the Vusi Temple choirs, they're about empowering the next generation to rise. And I believe as believers, that's the mantle we've been given. Instead of being in competition, we need to be collaborating to...
I love that word, collaborate, yes.
...build purpose-driven things in whatever area we've been called to really just be fruitful in, So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And I wanted to ask you something. I don't know if you've already mentioned it. A few months ago when I was talking to you, there's some music initiative that you had begun. There's something which I think you began this year. Have you talked about that?
I haven't.
Do you want that to be part of it?
We could definitely.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit about that?
So, so in November last year, we launched a record label and a creative. It's both a label and a creative ecosystem called Urban Collective.
Urban Collective.
Yeah, Urban Collective. So ideally comes from the idea that we're a collective of people that's been called out to the urban cities and the urban centers of the world to influence. So basically, it's a movement of faith-driven artists that are creating music that transcends genres.
Okay.
So whether you're worship music, you're doing Christian hip hop, or you're doing R&B gospel, or you're creating Christian music that is relatable to whoever listens, but it still carries a very strong message. So we did a very soft launch of it digitally in November. It was like a successor label to our previous record label, which was known as New Rivers Music.
Okay.
So the era for that label came to an end, and we felt we'll be moved to a different phase. So Urban Collective was birthed out of that.
Okay.
It's a part of a broader company called Afronova Group that we're building with a couple of friends.
Okay.
So our first project that was released under Urban Collective was the Always Joy EP, which was helmed by New Rivers. So we put it out in December, and now we're working on different projects that are scheduled to come out in the second half of this year. So in July, we'll be releasing Good News, which is the follow-up project to Always Joy. It's like the full project now, because Always Joy has 5 songs. So Good News has 11, including the 5 songs from Always Joy. And then we have an artist called Seaverb that we're working with. She's a Christian hip hop artist.
A Zimbabwean.
She's Zimbabwean. Okay. She was born and bred in Bulawayo.
Okay.
So she really reps her city. So
City of
strong.
Kings.
City of Kings and Queens. You'll feel it in her music.
Oh.
So she's got a project that that she's been working on with this producer called SITHABISO. Very talented producer. So we've been cooking up a project that's slated to come in the second half of 2025. So there is a single that's gotten on the way. We recently released a song with we released a song with an artist called Henny Sims. It's an inspirational song called Get Up.
Oh, wow.
Because we also have a focus on faith-formed positive music.
Wow, there's so much there. Faith-formed, I love that.
Faith-formed. Because I think for me, my thing was this: we don't have a lot of music that's positive, that's out there. Particularly that is from a place of our faith. So
it's nice to be able to gather and harness because there seems to be so much talent.
There's so much talent, and a lot of people that are believers that don't necessarily make Christian music, but they make music that you can tell this person is a believer because it comes from their faith. And so forth. So with her, she had the song for a while. Then we just partnered up to say, let's just push the song out there and see how people react to it and are impacted by it. So thankfully, she's also both into the worship music space as well. So there'll be more stuff that we will do as the months and the years progress. So that's, and then there's different projects that we're currently working on that will be revealed at a much later stage. Yeah.
Wow. There's so much there. Thank you, Mufaro. Wow.
You're welcome.
You know, so many things, positive things coming out of there. There's a lot about collaboration and being mentored and learning from other people and just coming together and doing things for God and just really, as a creative, just keeping the pulse of God there and making sure you're representing Him properly and not just doing things for popularity, but doing them for impact for Christ.
Yeah.
So that's really powerful. And I know it's not just music, like you're saying, it's writing, it's art, whatever, poetry, whatever it is that you do as a creative. And I believe a lot of creatives out there this will encourage them. Yeah, but do you have anything you want to say to people who walk the journey you have, or even just creatives or just people that, I believe this is not just for creatives, but they can learn from this. They can take these life lessons and basically extrapolate them for their own lives, whether they're creatives or not. I believe there's a bit of creativity in everyone, but obviously there's more. There's more in certain people.
That's true.
Yeah, you wanted to say something about that.
I was going to actually say that a lot of people think that creativity is just for the artists, people that are
out there or are seen.
They're out there or seen. But I think also if you really look at how God is a creator God, right? We were made in His image and likeness.
Exactly.
So if we're made in His image and likeness, then there's no way that you're not a creative.
Yeah.
Everybody who walks this earth, who's in any industry, who's in any sector, who comes from any walk of life, is creative in their own way. It may not manifest in artistry and music and all the so-called creative lanes.
Yeah, exactly.
But it will come out in problem solving, in mathematics.
I was thinking about that, problem solving. Yeah.
Because problem solving
you have to think of a solution.
Exactly, and you have to be very creative with how you come up with a solution. People that are strategists, not just creative strategists, but strategists within the whether it's business, whether it's finances, whether it's in the educational healthcare space. For you to come up with a strategy, it requires creativity from your end.
It does. Even the word innovation really is linked to creativity. Because people talk of innovation in science, in different areas which you don't consider artistic or creative. True. But all that is creativity, really. All that's the foundation.
Because innovation really comes from creativity.
Yeah, it does.
It's not something that just stands alone from creativity, but it came from a place of creativity. Because God is the original innovator.
He is.
The way He is able to make us as humans look different
Every
but
single
still,
person.
every single person has
Imagine
something
that.
unique. And I'm like, that's innovative beyond
It's
levels.
amazing.
You know, so it's a thing that everybody is creative. And you just have to figure out what it is that makes you creative, what it is that you can do that brings out your creativity. You know, it could be the way you teach.
Yeah.
You know, a child, if you're an educator, is the way you teach, how you present a lesson or a lecture or so forth. It's, as a public speaker, it's also how you present your words, how you present your thoughts and your ideas and so forth. Even as a pastor, you're creative. It's how you present your sermons, how you communicate. Because preachers, at the end of it all, are communicators. For you to communicate effectively, you need to harness some level of creativity.
Which means you've got your certain style.
Definitely.
You've got your style.
Definitely.
So it's a lot about, I'm hearing a lot about the how. It's not just the what. Because a lot of people may even have the same calling or do the same thing, but you don't do it the same. I don't do it the same as you.
Yeah.
It's just, that alone is like being creative.
That's true. So the fact that you can communicate in a certain way, I communicate in a certain way, but it's still effective.
Yeah.
It means that the way you do it and the way, you know, you have your own unique way of doing what you do. I have my own unique way of doing what I do. You know, the next person has their own unique way of doing what they do. It means that there's something that is inbuilt in us
to be able creative.
What makes collaboration beautiful. Because, you know, I think for me, how collaboration kind of got stamped into me from a very young age. At the time I was 19, 20, I will attribute a lot of that understanding from Hillsong.
Oh, okay.
So when they would create their projects, for instance, I'll give you an example. Hillsong Worship, when they wrote their projects, it was never just one person writing a song. Like, they would contribute songs.
Yeah, you'd see 2-3 names there.
You're seeing 3 or 4 different names, you know, that they do a lot of writing camps. Or they write songs that are specifically give the church, and it'd be the 2 of them, it'd be 4 of them. One of the most popular songs to come out of Hillsong, What a Beautiful Name, was written by 2 people.
I know that song.
And, you know, songs like Oceans was
beautiful.
about 3 people that wrote that song. And even how they, even beyond the music, how they set up and design even Hillsong Conference, their worship and creative conference.
It's people coming together.
It's a lot of people coming together. They have at least 600 to 700 people that make an event happen. Yeah.
Wow.
At least 600 to 700 people that make an event happen. And so forth. And that's generally, even if you look at, I'll speak from a music standpoint, and even from a film and television standpoint, even in the different spaces, particularly in the Western culture, they emphasize so much on collaborating. So you have a writer's room. It's different people that
I like that.
Yeah, it's different people that are writing a season of a show, and they're figuring, okay, how do you work that character? How do we do this and this and that? You know, it's producing could even just be 3 or 4 different people. You bring a certain element to the production of the song. You bring a certain element to how the song sounds, you know. So in a lot of cases, you'll have 7 people on the songwriting, but it's someone contributed a line that changed the direction of the song, or the song went through 3 different people, and then the song went through another 4 different people, and they completed it. And
then all of you acknowledge that.
Exactly. Yeah. So
nice.
Collaboration is, I would say, it's even in business, it's you know, whatever field anyone may find themselves in, it's the most important thing.
It is. Not always. You can't. There's a place for competition, like, you know, in sports and all that, and even then.
Yeah.
But I like collaboration, teamwork.
Yeah. And I think when you initiate collaboration in a team setting, in a church setting, in a healthcare setting, in an educational setting, you are bound to unleash more wins. You're bound to create seamless, you know, processes towards things, because you've come together and said, okay, fine, you know, how do we make this thing work? And you sit for hours, you talk, or you sit for days, and you come up with ideas until you narrow down the one thing that will work for whatever it is you're working on.
And you're leveraging each other's strengths. Exactly. Yeah.
There's so much power in leveraging on on someone's strength, because one person can be good with structure and you're good with vision. And if you're a person that's like business, a CEO and a COO, you know, a CEO is very vision minded, he's very strategy driven. A chief operations officer is very executional.
In operationalizing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they will structure what needs to be structured. They'll create a process for the operation side of things, and they'll execute what needs to be executed. And you have an effective workforce that becomes better. So,
And another thing I was thinking about, you know, when we were all at school, in primary school, we had to do creative writing. And it wasn't like, okay, these are the ones everybody had to come up with a story. So that alone tells you that it is supposed to be, everyone has got that in them. They just have to maybe ask God. For those who are listening, maybe who thought they were not creative, they were like, no, I'm not creative.
Yeah.
To find out, and then maybe use that for God in some way in the domain they're in.
Yeah, that's true.
Not necessarily media and arts and communications, because people usually say, oh, they are the creatives. Oh, wow. Thanks, Mufaro, for your time.
Welcome.
What are your parting words then?
My parting words?
Yeah, encouraging anything. Do people want to venture or want to be in the area you're in? Or just generally for anybody?
I think in a general sense, I think, you know, whether you want to be in the creative industry or you want to be in any industry, I think the first thing I'd say is know your why for doing what you want to do. Because you can know how to, but if you don't have a strong why, when things get hard, it's easy to tap out. It's easy to quit and be like, no, it's not for me. But if you know your why as a person, you know, like, why am I in business? Why am I a teacher? Why am I
doing this?
a lawyer? You know, if you have a strong why, it'll carry you.
It's powerful.
It'll carry you, you know, even in moments where you want to quit. I've had moments where I wanted to stop doing music completely, but I would always then get reminded of the why. See, God will use someone to say, you know, this is why, or you get someone come and tell you this thing helped me, whatever you said, or this song helped me.
And then you stay.
And then you kind of stay. You're like, okay, no, I need to be plugged into what I've been called to do. So having a why will help you navigate whatever you've been called to do, whatever you're wanting to do, whatever you have, whatever dream that you have, that why will help you. And the next thing I would also say is that don't build in vain. The scriptures that says, unless the Lord, you know, builds, you're building in vain.
Yeah.
So there's a song that says, Christ is my firm foundation, the solid rock on which I stand. I think in anything, it's not just the things that we want to do spiritually or in church, but I think in anything in life, we've got to build with Christ. We've got to build with God, you know, and place Him at the center of what we do. Because if you place Him at the center, the results that you will achieve will be immaculate. It might not be the craziest kind of results in some cases, or it can be, but people are then able to trace back and say, oh no, this was God. This was God's grace. This is what, you know, God called him to do. God gave him that ability to do this and that. Yeah. So it's really building on the foundation that is Christ. I would say that if you have your why, if you build with Christ, because God really wants to co-create.
He does.
With us.
He does.
And He extends that invitation all the time. It's like, you know, I placed that dream in your heart for a reason. Trust me to help you bring it to life. Yeah. Or let me guide you. Let me lead you to where you're supposed to go next. And, you know, so it's important to have a strong why, to build with Christ, or to build on the foundation that is Christ. And also very important to discern the times and the seasons. You know, like if you need to pivot to a different space, then literally you've got to trust God that God is going to he's going to lead you into that particular thing you're supposed to do next. Or, you know, the results will show, or He will show you why He wants you to pivot, and so forth. So, like, I'm in the middle of a pivot of sorts, you know, and that one came as a bit of a surprise, but I think also at the same time it came as a result of being shown, because God will use anything and anyone to show you why.
He will.
You know, why, you know, this works for you, you know, and so forth. So it's, in a lot of ways, you will discover these are your strengths, and this is why you've had to make this pivot. And, you know, a lot of the other things you can do, but they'll drain you out.
Yeah.
So I think strong why, building on the foundation that is Christ, discerning times and seasons, knowing when it's time to pivot, when it's time to stay put, or when it's time to completely change what you're doing because God has a different season ahead of you is very important. So before I preach a podcast, I will end there.
There's so much in there. I'm not going to add anything. Thank you so much, Mufaro.
You're most welcome.
So you've heard it from the man himself. Such an encouraging and powerful testimony. Thank you so much. God is doing so much in your life, and I just pray that, you know, you continue to be obedient and to be used of God, and that He will expand your territory.
Thank you so much. Amen to that.
So guys, don't be stingy. Please make sure you share this testimony. Thank you for watching till the end. Remember to like and to comment. And if you're not part of the family, do hit that subscribe button. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.